And we're live,
Look at us.
streaming without a net. People can watch us
Oh my
right
goodness.
now. This is a zero editing situation. How's it
Oh
going,
my
Dean?
goodness. I've never been in a live situation before.
Never once.
Never once.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Tellman Knudsen. Harris Fellman is on an airplane flying from Barcelona to London at the moment, and so he will not be joining us. This is episode 75 of the Tellman and Fellman Show. And we have legendary internet marketer, truly legendary, one of the early pioneers of internet marketing. One of two people that I know that are credited with putting a squeeze page up first, and which is really, really exciting. Of course, you're the co-founder of the I Love Marketing podcast with another good friend, Joe Polish. One of the best marketing podcasts of all time. In all seriousness, a really, really great show. I've loved that, and then I've loved all the various. I'll call them spin-offs, even though they're not all actually spin-offs, but all the various podcasts and things that I've seen you launch and consistently do over time since. So, I mean, you're a very interesting fellow, Dean. Every time I talk to you, you're one of the few people that I actually have an aha moment. I think every time we have a conversation.
That's great. That's great.
I love your I know you use this word, but I love your elegant perspective. You have a unique way of looking at things and approaching problems and then articulating your thoughts on them that is much more like it feels much more intentional and less haphazard than a lot of the ADD spastic marketers that I know. And so I find
a lot of them are ADD workarounds for sure.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Anything complex, I have to work around. So that's why out of necessity, I've learned to simplify. So that's good.
Yeah, well, I feel like I have the necessity and that I need to learn how to simplify, but I haven't learned how yet. So I appreciate it.
So funny.
Well, so welcome to the Tellman and Fellman Show.
75 episodes, huh? That's a long 75. Time. That sounds like a real commitment.
Well, we're going Monday through Friday, 5 days a week.
Okay.
And so we're packing them in. We're really going for it. Yeah, it's great.
I love it.
And so let's talk a little bit about who you are and how you got here.
Okay.
Right?
Absolutely.
For folks who don't know or need to be reminded, what year did you put up your first opt-in page, your first squeeze, or maybe even the first opt-in page?
Exactly. Between me and Jonathan.
Flycatcher page. What was the when did that happen? When did that go down?
So that was in 1997. The internet was just kind of forming in 1997, 98. I had created this was the realization that I had, that it was right when you were first kind of able to collect email addresses, right? That everybody was getting an email address, and people would put on their websites, a little box to join my newsletter or whatever. That was the big thing, right? To get emails. And back then, of course, when you got, email was a big event. You've got mail. It was like a big thing. Right. People were checking and reading their emails. And so
it was rare. It was rare. It was special
Yes. And so what I realized was that when you put up a page that has lots of things for people to click on, and you put up a little thing where they can enter their name and their email address, let's say you've got 10 things. You've just reduced your chances to 1 in 10 that they're going to click on the thing that allows them to leave their name and email address. So I took a page from Cosmo magazine. And, when you would go through, or the Weekly World News, or, the National Enquirer, any of those things at the supermarket, you'd be looking at the things, and they put all these fascinations on the cover of the magazine, page 13, page whatever. And so to entice you to buy the
Right.
magazine because you don't have time to read the whole thing while you're sitting in there in the checkout aisle.
Right.
And so I started doing that using those kind of fascinations. And instead of saying click here, I would say free inside, more
Right.
inside, see inside. And you'd have like 6 or 8 of these really compelling headlines. And then at the bottom, it would have a get free instant access, name, email, go.
And
And
it
that
sounds like you're
was
talking about bullets.
I'm talking about bullets. Yeah, I'm talking about like I treated the homepage like the table of contents of Cosmo magazine. Here's the
Yep.
articles, here's the compelling stuff that's inside. And of course, you want all this stuff, so you're gonna just leave your name and your email. And what I found was that that got the highest opt-in rate by far of anything that I was testing. And even then,
Right.
it got even smaller, where you would just have one key thing on the page for people to opt in, and that's still to this day the type of
The winning formula.
yeah, that's the winning formula.
It really is. Dude, so what market niche were you operating in at the time when you had this breakthrough?
So that was in real estate, and I was also learning internet marketing at the time, right? Because I saw that as a big thing. Of course, my lens through which I was viewing it was how can I apply this to real estate? And then
And but what were you so what were you selling? Were you selling
oh,
homes
it was
or
a
were you selling
website for it was livinginwinterhaven.com was the site. It was my first version of a real estate website, and I learned how to make them on page, no, front page. Remember
yeah,
Microsoft
I
front
do. I
page?
do. Yeah.
Yeah, so I learned how to do the whole thing, got how to, we're all just learning as you go. And then I started.
Well, no,
I did it.
hold on. Just pause for a second because this is
Yeah.
really relevant. Like, this is extremely important. Like, you built a squeeze page and you were a real estate agent selling houses.
No, I was beyond I was outside of being a real estate. We were doing coaching for real estate agents, how to grow their business. These were the by referral only years. Joe Stump and I were building a big coaching company.
Okay.
So, because I
Okay.
started out in real estate for myself, and then I started figuring out, how to do marketing. Uh, I found Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth,
Yeah.
and around that same time, then I discovered Jay Abraham and Gary Halbert and Dan Kennedy, the big three, right, at the time. This would be very early 90s, 90, 91 kind
Okay.
of
So
thing.
you had exposure to direct response marketing before you put up a squeeze page.
Oh, yeah, before the internet was even,
Okay.
available. So
Okay.
that's what I mean. I
Okay.
was learning all of this. I was doing direct response. Like, if we go all the way back, when I started my real estate career, 1988, I was making 100 cold calls a day, and it was a grind, I mean, I
Yeah.
was good at it, but it
Right.
was a
Yeah. No,
grind.
not that
And you
fun.
had to kind of play games with myself to get myself to do it, and
Right.
I
Right.
landed on this idea of, um, creating as if I were at a radio show, that I would have to be on the air from 10 a.m. till noon, uh, kind of thing every day, and uh, from 6 to 7:30, right? That was my on the air times. And so I would play those games with myself to get myself to just be on the air for those two
Which is in that case was on the phone.
yeah, on that
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the thing, right? "Hey, Mr. Knudsen, it's Dean Jackson calling from Royal
Right.
LePage." Yeah, that kind of I could still do it. But at the time, I was then learning direct response,
Yeah.
and I found out that I could put words on a postcard and mail the postcard and get people to call me. instead of me calling
Right.
them, and my
Oh,
whole life
awesome.
changed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I
so
mean, I
let's talk
remember
about
the
that polarity
day.
shift. Yeah.
I remember the day, like, I sent out a, postcard to apartment complexes offering them a book on how to buy their first home, which we had was a
Yeah.
booklet, that we had with, Royal LePage, which was a big real estate company in Canada, and I remember sending out the postcard, little trifold postcard with a business reply card, and I still, to this day, I remember driving up to the office, and it was a big glass, window in the front, and as I'm walking up, Joanne, the receptionist, was waving something in her hand, and I couldn't see what it was, but I walk in, and she, like, presents me with this little stack of business reply cards with a rubber band around. There were 11 people that replied to my postcards the first day, and I still get that giddy feeling when I think
Right.
about that, like, I was
Right.
just looking through this and people had handwritten, they'd put in their name and their address and their phone number, and instead of making my cold calls, I went in and I just started calling these people, and I spoke to 6 of them, 6 of the 11, and they all knew who I was and why I was calling, and they wanted the book, and they were planning on buying a home, and that was the day that I've never made a cold call since that day, because then I knew that now I could leverage with that. And combined with Michael Gerber's idea of working on my business like I'm going to duplicate it 5,000 times was a
Right.
revolutionary idea to me. And I
Right.
got it on the highest level that I'm working on the system. Like, I
Right.
understood what working on the business versus in the cold calling is
In the
working
business.
in the
Yeah.
business.
Right.
Writing the postcards, creating an asset that can work without me and that I could show you how to do,
Right.
that became my MO. That became my catalyst. And so I documented all the systems that I was doing, and I had created a guide to Halton Hills real estate prices, which was, if you wanted to come out to Georgetown, which is kind of like the way Connecticut is to New York, that people live in Connecticut, work in the city. Same thing. It was in the greater Toronto area, but people didn't know. In order to find out what's going on in Georgetown, you physically had to go to Georgetown, right?
Yeah.
And look around, because there was no internet for people
Right.
to get.
Right.
So I created this guide to Halton Hills house prices so that people could see, what do you get for your money in Halton Hills? And I would run that in the real estate publication for the east or the west end of Toronto. And I would get all these people either filling out the coupon and sending it back, or calling my recorded message, or faxing me the coupon. And I then created a guide called Toronto and Beyond, 40 great places to live within an hour of the city. And I licensed my system to 40 different real estate agents around
Ah.
Toronto. And that was my big thing into leverage.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, there's some more backstory here that I'd like to dig into, but first, I mean,
Mm,
as you were talking, I was struck with something that was kind of like a revelation.
okay.
I've never had a tremendous amount of luck. I've only run a few direct mail campaigns,
Mm,
and they didn't work very well, and I gave up very quickly on them.
mm,
I've had over the years an enormous amount of luck with email,
mhm.
and yet um, email is becoming a more complex, more challenging battle. It's harder and harder to get inboxed, and more, it's no longer so special to receive an email anymore,
Mhm.
right? And I'm ve- I'm familiar with Luke Jayton, but we know each other, but I haven't interviewed him on the show yet. So he
Mhm.
might be a good person. I know. I'm just thinking about how empty mailboxes are these
Oh, yeah,
days,
for sure. No,
and
I'm a
I'm
big fan of postcards.
yeah, our postcards like genuinely still alive and well? Like can you still send out a postcard campaign in most markets and get a positive ROI if it's well designed?
Yeah, for sure. I do it every day. I mean, that's a big piece, especially if you have what I call visible prospects, where you know who they are. If you can get a list of them and point to them, and the way I describe it, because that's one of the job one is to discover whether you have visible or invisible prospects. And so the way I describe it is if you are targeting chiropractors, those are visible prospects.
Right.
You can get a list of chiropractors, right? And
Right.
say, there's one, there's one, there's one. And you can mail and know that you're going right to the right person. Now, if you are a chiropractor, you have invisible
Right.
prospects because you
Right.
can't get a list of people who
Nobody's out
kissed their
there.
back
Yeah.
this morning.
Nobody has a Yellow Pages ad that says, I have back pain.
Exactly.
Like,
So that's where you have to, you can, and I'm a big fan of all the digital media now. I look at the Facebook feed as digital postcards.
right.
That's the
Right.
mindset I come at it. And the CPMs are ridiculous. I mean, for even if with, limited, 15-mile radius or whatever where you are, you can for, $30 or $40, you can deliver 1,000 digital postcards to someone and using the lead ads format on Facebook, and it gets very similar response rates to what physical postcards would get,
Right.
except the cost is so much less.
Right. Right. So, um, you can definitely point to chiropractors.
Yes,
In my case of helping entrepreneurs with money mindset stuff, you can kind of find entrepreneurs, right?
yes.
But like people that are interested in exploring and improving their money mindset, that's a little bit more of an invisible topic, right?
Yeah, that's why you have to use this is where and the mistake that often people make, Tillman, is they're trying to convince people on the
Right.
postcard instead of just trying to compel them, right? So
Mm,
I would say that we're looking for, just compelling, and we're separating the compelling and the convincing. Is we just want to get somebody to raise their hand and say, "Oh, I'm interested in that."
right.
Right? So, I
Right.
talked about a chiropractor, for instance, if you are a chiropractor and one of the things you help people with is neck pain, for instance, if you were to run an ad in Facebook in a 5-mile radius around your practice and you offered people a book called The Neck Pain Solution,
Right.
who's going
Right.
to ask for that? Somebody with
Okay.
neck
I mean,
pain. It's compelling.
only somebody with neck pain. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
No neck pain.
you're not trying to you're compelling in that you're just giving. It's all cheese, no
Oh,
whiskers. It's
yeah, that's
all
right.
about you. I mean, it's all about them, what the neck pain solution that you're identifying people who have and want a neck pain solution. And now then you can start convincing people. And
Right.
otherwise, when I say the difference there, what often most people do when they start running ads, especially digital ads, is they're running video ads or long copy ads, and they're trying to convince people that I'm the best doctor, I'm the best chiropractor, and I can
Right.
help with your trying to convince you to book an appointment today,
Right.
right? But what we
It's a
want
lot
to
of
do
commitment.
is, yeah, just lean into the things that somebody can do right now. And that is the biggest win. Like turning somebody from an invisible prospect to a visible prospect is a win enough. I
Mm,
would say like people think about you hear the words know you like you trust you, that's where you got to get to, right? People have to know you like you trust you. But they all say them just like that as one destination. Know
right.
you like you trust you. And they don't properly revere the giant leap from not knowing you to knowing you.
Right.
Full stop. let's just go to that, where
Yeah,
now
let's start
they
there.
know you exist and you know they exist. That's job number one.
That's right.
And it's a much shorter distance from knowing you to liking you, and an even shorter distance from liking you to trusting you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So let's just focus on just getting people to raise their hand, you know?
I do know. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I'm I'm concocting a plan in my mind as you're talking about both about postcard re-engagement campaigns to old customers I can't reach through email anymore.
Sure,
And then
absolutely.
I was like, wait a minute, if I can do a good postcard customer re-engagement campaign for my list, couldn't do I do a good postcard re-engagement campaign for a lot of people's lists that
Yeah.
so
Listen, I
that
think that
they're all
postcards,
in.
if you blend, it's so seamless right now that this little digital gateway to Cloudlandia that we're holding in our hands at all times is such an amazing assist in direct mail now. Like the big thing, one of the things that we've been really doing a lot of is what they're digital variable QR codes, where you can send a QR code and then you know who, if anybody scans it, you know exactly who scanned it, even if they don't opt
Oh,
in,
wow.
because it's
Cool.
linked to their
Right.
name and
Contact
address.
record.
Yes,
Who do you
yes.
use for that?
So I use my I have a relationship with the guys at prospectsplus.com.
Cool.
And these guys are they have a division called Opportunity Knocks, and that's one of the things that we co-developed with them is these digital variable QR codes.
Oh, cool. I like that. I hadn't heard of digital I mean, that sounds awesome.
Mhm.
Um, and so
But
do
I look
they
at
act
that
as your
now as the direct mail. I look at that to seamlessly integrate your digital and physical into
right,
one thing, like what you could
right,
literally do for follow-up, for lead conversion, is you can deliver the equivalent of a 30-page magazine to somebody with a postcard of the
right.
cover and the contents and the QR
The
code
QR code.
to
Yeah.
go right to it. So you're getting the benefit of the full digital, the full catalog or full
Right,
magazine or TV show or
right.
whatever it is.
Whatever
You
it
just
is.
think about
Yeah.
that as delivering just the compelling content to compel people to at least check out this part of it, you know?
That's cool. That's cool.
Mhm.
So does that service act as your CRM or does it plug into a CRM on the
It plugs
outside?
into the CRM. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So
Mhm.
dude, um, when you I mean, how did you first get started as an entrepreneur, and then where did that bridge into marketing? My recollection is that you used to be roommates with Eben Pagan back in the day.
Not
You
roommates,
know,
but we certainly spent a lot of time
something
together, yeah.
college. I thought you were roommates in college together. That was the story
No,
I remember.
we
Maybe I made part of that up.
or maybe. It goes all the way back to I've only ever had one job in my life.
Oh,
I worked at the bowling alley at 14 years old for 2 weeks,
oh,
and in
okay.
that 2 weeks, it ridded me of any desire to work for anybody else for an hourly wage.
It traumatized you so badly that you went
Well, I
firmly in the
just
other direction.
realized this is crazy. So I
Yeah,
realized, when my friend Neil and I got jobs at the bowling alley on the same day when we were 14. We waited right, till we were 14, and then we applied and we both got hired. And because our thing was we used to hang out at the bowling alley. That was the place
yeah.
to, play your video games and
And
your
was this where'd you grow up?
in Toronto,
In
Georgetown.
Toronto. Yeah, okay.
Yep. And, so the we were getting $2.20 an hour at that, time.
Wow.
Yes, the
Rolling in it.
princely sum. And, so I worked 2 full weeks, 30 hours over the 2 weeks, 32 hours, I think, over the 2 weeks, and my paycheck once, they took out taxes and all the stuff, it was just like unimpressive.
Right.
And I realized at that time we both had paper routes. And
Yeah.
one of the things that we could do with the paper routes, they had these coupon books that we could sell door to door, and we would get half the money. And so I realized I could make,
Double
you
duty.
know,
Yeah.
20 or $25 an hour selling coupon books door to door. And so I very quickly just switched to doing that and go, and for a couple of hours on Saturday morning, I would go out and sell coupon books and then go hang out at the bowling alley and spend the money that we made. So I
Now,
realized then that the results economy was where it was at, you know?
now, were either of your parents entrepreneurial?
No, my mom worked at a bank. She was a private banker. My dad was worked at Air Canada. Not entrepreneurial. There's nobody in my family that was
You got
entrepreneurial.
you got you
Well,
got
actually,
you
that's
got
not true. That's not true. My
oh,
my
oh,
uncle, my uncle owned a gas station restaurant combination, and so when I was really even younger than that, I would go and wash windshields for
all
tips.
right.
And
All
yeah,
right.
yeah,
All right. So you got
yeah.
early
So
exposure.
very
Okay.
early, I got into this whole results economy, as our friend Dan Sullivan,
That's right.
introduced the term. But the results economy was so much better than the time and effort economy.
Right.
And so that was it for me. It was always entrepreneurial for from then on.
Cool. Cool. And so you got some early exposure. You were not impressed with the hourly wage, and you figured out how to ratchet it up from a paper route to selling coupons, and then eventually you went through high school, presumably. And what
Mhm.
point did you get into real estate?
So I got into real estate in 1988. I was a tennis player, and that was the path I was going down. Was
A pro
really
tennis player.
I was that's exactly right, going down that path. And when I was 21, we were playing what are called like satellite events, which are kind of like the minor league baseball kind of thing, right? So tennis, you have to kind of earn your way. You don't get drafted and there's no contracts. You have to, it's 100% of meritocracy. And so I had a doubles partner from Sweden, and we were playing these satellite events. He had a friend in Vero Beach who was a former tennis player, got to be 180 in the world.
How
And
old were you? How old were you at this
I was
point when you were like,
21. I was
yeah,
21.
okay. Okay, so you're going for it. Okay.
Yeah, go for it. And it's a grind. I mean, it's like it's not glamorous. It's like, four guys in the hotel room or camping at the sites, and you've got to play all these events. And so we were with Lars, my friend, my doubles partner, Johan's friend Lars, and he lived in Vero Beach. He had a house on the intercoastal water with a boat. He had his office in the middle of the island there, and he had a condo on the ocean, and
Yeah.
drove a Porsche 911, and he owned a real estate company. And we were out on his boat. I still remember, like to this day, as he was talking about the moment of clarity for him when he was 26. He had a knee injury, had to have surgery, and it was unclear, whether he was going to come back 100% or whatever. But in reflection, he said he realized, okay, there's only 179 people in the world that are better than me at what I do. I'm living hand to mouth, and my runway for doing it is shrinking, and I may not
Right.
make it back.
One injury away from the whole thing getting
And
scrapped,
he
right?
said, I wonder what the 180th ranked businessman in the world is making right now.
Ooh.
And he decided
Play
to
a different
switch
game, right?
games. And that for me were the words that I needed to hear, because I was already having these visions. I was already seeing, I didn't want to be 28 years old out on the satellite circuit
Dragon.
grinding,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to be teaching tennis to housewives and kids at Club Med or
Right.
something. and I realized if I could switch to business, to real estate at 21, I would be a prodigy. I would be
Right.
with a long runway to move forward. So I immediately switched. We finished up that series. I went back to Canada. I got my real estate license, and 6 months later, sold my first 2 houses on my first day in real estate, and that was it.
You know, Dean, one of the things that I've observed over the years is some of my best entrepreneurial students, whether it's in the mindset area, the email
Mhm,
marketing, list building area, consistently
mhm.
are athletes and or
Yeah.
personal trainers, like people
Mhm,
who have a certain type of competitive streak.
mhm.
And though, I mean, you've mentioned two separate things that you did early on that were a grind, but you did it
Mhm.
anyway for a period of time. And
Right.
I'm curious about your perspective on peak performance, because a lot
Mhm,
of very successful entrepreneurs that I have known for many years and talked to have achieved a high level of success in more than one area of their
mhm,
life.
mhm.
And it sounds like you have too. And I'm curious about the underlying belief, the underlying structure,
Yeah.
or how you think about the world or yourself, or a challenge that you're going after, or a
Mhm,
goal that you're trying to achieve. What makes your ability to perform at a high level different from your own perspective than
mhm.
people who struggle to raise up
I don't know,
or to
I
hit,
can tell, like,
you know?
from me, I grew up in Canada, so at a in Canada, when you're a young boy, uh, it's playing hockey is like mandatory military service. You're 5 years old, they hand you your hockey stick, and you gotta put in your
Work.
4
Yeah.
years of service at least, right? And I realized, and it's like there's great hockey, development programs and everything
Yeah.
like that. But I just realized, even at that, I remember in like fourth grade, the political nature of playing the same position as the coach's son,
Oh, right.
who
Right.
who would
What are
get
you gonna do?
more
Like,
opportunities, and being on a team and that kind of thing. And I realized, with tennis, I don't know whether it's because I'm an only child or,
or what?
competitive, to me, switching to tennis was like a thing. It's 100% meritocracy, and
Right. Well,
you are 100% responsible for
yep.
your own outcome.
Right.
And that to me,
Running is the same way. Like, I couldn't ever
yeah.
play team sports growing up, but distance running, where I could just ignore
Mhm.
everybody else and go balls to the wall, like, I
Yeah.
could do well in that, right?
Yeah, very interesting, right? Like how our choices as kids shape us for the rest
Yeah.
of our lives, you know?
Right.
Uh, so yeah, and that same realization of, employment versus results economy, where you could just focus on, if I can get the result, then
Right.
I deserve to get more money, and
Right.
that was, so. And often it's so counterintuitive that I could, in one Saturday morning, in 2 hours, make more than I would make in 2 weeks at the bowling alley, and so you think about that, because I would work all day Saturday and 2 nights during the week, 16 hours a week, 32 hours for that 2-week pay period, and I was making $2.20 per hour minus tax, and so if you do the math, I was getting cash with the coupon books and getting, 40 or $50 for 2 hours. It was such a
It,
different.
it's interesting though, because with the coupon books,
Yeah,
you're inevitably facing rejection, right? You're going up and you're
yeah.
knocking on a bunch of doors where people don't know you. They may or
But
may
I
not
learned
answer.
that's the thing, that I learned how to, I would show the coupon books, and then there was one of the things, one of the McDonald's in the coupon book just had a free Big Mac. No purchase
Free Big
necessary,
Mac.
nothing like that,
Right.
right? So I would just say to people, like, "Do you
Lead with
like
that.
Big Macs deal. I would lead with that, and it pays for the
Right,
coupon book, and then I added up all of the other things that you would
right,
get. It
right.
was like $50 worth of savings for $3 for the book.
That's so. But Dean, you seem like a fairly happy, content individual. You seem like you like what you do,
Yeah.
and that you have a genuine passion for it. But a lot of people get caught up in, oh, is this my passion? Is this what I really want to be
Mm,
doing with my life? And then there's, am I just chasing money? Am I just chasing the dollar
mhm,
signs and ignoring what means something to me? And
mhm.
so, and I know you're talking about bowling alley and coupons books when you're a kid, but how does that translate into the opportunities, or the potential opportunities that people, or that you decide to chase or not to chase now? How do you balance just going after the
Well,
money
this is that we
versus
couldn't
doing
have
what's
written a
important to
better
you?
segue than
Yeah,
what I could lead into right now is
yeah,
in 1999, this 25 years ago now, because we're coming up on 2025 here.
right.
I went through a process with Thomas Leonard. I don't know if you remember Thomas Leonard.
I don't.
He's the guy that kind of founded the whole coaching movement, the certified coaches and created Coach University and Coachville. And we were very good friends. I got to know him very well. He passed in 2004, I think.
Mm.
Um, and we went through a process of we created a program called A Perfect Life. And of course, the idea is that it's a perfect life, not the perfect life, implying there's 8 billion versions of a perfect life,
All right,
right?
all right,
You happen to be in control of one of them.
right,
And the big idea was to define how do you define success? How do you know that you are being successful? That was the
right,
key. Not most people, when they think about success, they think about it as something in the future and aspirational that they're working towards, that
right.
one day I will be successful.
But
And the
no, it
whole
never
idea
works
was
that way, does
we
it?
push the accelerator pedal and we
Right.
go up into the future and we start to take inventory and look around and say, well, how will we know when we're being successful?
It's a good
Because
question.
being is in the present, right?
Right, right,
And so the big idea, and I would recommend for everybody to do this, is to just finish the statement. I know I'm being successful when, and list 10 things that you know will that's your definition of what being
yeah,
successful is. So 25 years ago, I made this list, and my top 3 were I know I'm being successful when I can wake up every day and say, what would I like to do today?
mm,
I know I'm being successful when my passive revenue exceeds my lifestyle needs.
ah,
I know I'm being successful when I'm working on projects I'm excited about and doing my very best work.
mm,
Now, those 3 things have been true for 25 years and they're still equally exciting. Like, I want those 3 things for the next 25 years, as I
yeah,
I really just started recently thinking if I were to revisit that, how would I reshape those? Is there
right.
anything about them that would change? And I've got a whole top 10 list of them. But it's just that driving thing. Those are timeless. I can't
Right.
imagine a time where I'm not going to want to wake up and say, what would I like to do today?
What I really like about what the way that you put that is that, and I'm very guilty of this often, is
Mhm,
that there's no numeric or
mhm,
measure. There's no, well, there are measurable things in your list, but
mhm.
they're not measurable in the traditional way. They're not.
Right.
I'm making, I mean, classic for the aspiring entrepreneurs. I'm making $10,000 a month, but $10,000 a
Yeah.
month doesn't matter. If inflation skyrockets, right?
Right,
It's
exactly, and it locks you
right,
into a time, right?
right. And then
That's the
there's a
thing.
millionaire. If I'm a millionaire, but that has so many
Right,
different definitions, it's a little vague,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I like your ways that your items imply like I'm making more money in from my passive income than my expenses, right? That
Yeah.
clearly is a
That's
financial
total
goal,
freedom,
but
right? Like, that's the thing.
it's not the number, it's the situation,
Mhm.
right?
That's right.
Like
That's
I love that.
exactly right.
I love that. Cool. So let's fast forward. And we've talked about the past a lot of really great pieces in there.
Yeah.
What are you focused on or working on the most right now? Why do you call yourself a master cheesemaker?
I started a, podcast called More Cheese, Less Whiskers as a concept that, I read years ago about why they choose mice for these psychological studies, because the motivation of a mouse is very similar to humans, that you can
Right.
extrapolate what a mouse does to what a human will do. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, because if you really think about it, a mouse has a pretty simple life. There's two prime directives of a mouse. It's get cheese, avoid cats. That's the whole deal if you're a mouse, right? And I realized that mice are programmed, compelled to seek cheese.
Yeah.
And if you
For
put
whatever reason.
cheese on the other side of a 3-inch door, that mouse will chew through the door to
That
get
door.
to the
Right.
cheese, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as it sees or senses a whisker, the cat, it's gone. It runs
Completely
away,
gone. Yeah.
because it's
Right.
far more important to live than
Right.
it
Then to
is
eat
to
the
get
cheese.
the
Yeah.
cheese, right? So we're wired that way, that we're constantly seeking cheese and avoiding cats, bad things. We want the good. We don't want any of the bad. And so if we can position ourselves to focus on the cheese of who we're trying to attract, what they want, that's really the big win for us, right? So that's why I call lovingly my community is called the International Cheesemakers Guild. And it's kind of a fun play that everybody who's a you know uh, applying this type of marketing is a cheesemaker. And that's what really marketing is about, is ultimately giving people what they want without any friction or negative things.
I do. I feel like people really do want cheese, and what I want to know is when are you going to actually get into the cheese business? Because it seems like maybe a good retirement profession for you. Like
I think
be a
about you and I went to
gentleman.
the cheese. You're such a cheese fan. I
I am.
remember
I
when
am.
we had our super happy fun day in Manhattan, and we went to John's on Bleecker and the cheese shop.
Maurice
You
Cheese
were
Shop. That's right.
you were equally excited about the cheese shop as the
Oh
pizza
yeah, cheese
place.
shop's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. I have really enjoyed the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast episodes that I've heard. Um,
Hmm.
how many? I mean, I don't know how. I have no idea if it's one or more. How many active podcasts do you have going where you're creating new content on a somewhat regular basis?
Yeah, so we have, I mean, Joe and I still do less now, but still active I Love Marketing episodes. We're up to 400 and something of those. I've done the More Cheese, Less Whiskers podcast, has 270 or something episodes. And I'm bringing that back. We've been in syndication since COVID. But this for 2025, I'm bringing back all new episodes of that. And it's in itself, it's a all cheese type of thing, because I just work with one business each week, and the whole thing is essentially brainstorming and applying our 8 profit activator model to their business. So it's like a 1 hour consultation that takes no preparation for me, in that I don't have to wonder what am I going to talk about, because I'm just there to serve the person that's on the other end, and we just
Right.
brainstorm, and I bring it, I bring everything that I know up to that point. So it's constantly evolving, and it's underneath that,
Yeah.
durable framework of the 8 profit activators,
Well,
and so
speaking
everything
of
goes with
which,
that.
I mean, we should talk about the 8 profit activators. I know
Yeah.
you innovated that a while back, but people can get your 8 profit activators book, I believe, at
Yes,
deanjackson.com. Is that accurate?
that's right. That's
Well,
exactly
I mean,
right.
it's right there. We're interviewing deanjackson.com right now, and and Dean officially changed his name to deanjackson.com.
That's great.
Do
Oh,
you have
that's
it like
funny.
that? Do you have it tattooed on your eyelids on the inside?
Yeah, exactly, deanjackson.com. Um,
But you can go there and get the 8 profit activate. Like, what are the 8 profit activators all about? Like, who can use it? What do they do for you?
so this is a thing, like, I'm big on durable contexts, right?
Mhm.
Contexts that are universally applicable, and we call this the breakthrough DNA process. And I look at the 8 profit activators as like 8, DNA or stem cells that are universally present, but they manifest differently in a chiropractic business or a plumbing business or a thing, but the underlying things are universally true. And just the short version is we kind of take a business and we break it into 3 independent divisions. And we call the before unit, the during unit, and the after unit. And the during unit is the one that everybody's familiar with because that's the part of the business that does what the business does. So if you're a chiropractor, it's all the people. When people come in, you do the adjustment, you help them out, and they leave feeling better than when they came in. And the after unit is nurturing lifetime relationships with the people who've already had an experience with you so that they come back and that they bring their friends, right? That's how
Right.
we measure the after unit. And then the before unit we think of as a completely separate unit of the business whose only job is to act as a supplier to the during unit. And what they're supplying is a constant stream at whatever level you want of new people who want to experience whatever it is that your business does or get the cheese that you offer, right? And so we've got 8 profit activators that fit underneath all of those. And they are I think about them as like music theory. It's not it's kind of interesting that every song ever written is some unique combination of the same 8 notes in an octave,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Right. Right.
And to whatever degree you can learn and master this music theory, you can learn it enough to plink out Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star with your finger,
That's right.
or with some applied learning and experience and practice, you can create a symphony that
Hmm.
is, something magical. And so that's what I've really done I've been working on this for the last, 35 years. And I would say the first 10 years were unconsciously, and the last 25 years have been consciously when I've recognized and named them. But it's one of those durable contexts that everything going forward, it's going to be equally true 25 years from now, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So you have the More Cheese, Less Whiskers podcast,
Mhm.
and you have the Breakthrough DNA book. So, like, what's the primary focus that you have these days? Like, is it just working with people with the 8 profit activators, or is there something
I mean,
beyond
that's
that?
certainly the through line of everything. I do live events. We do the Zoom workshops. I would do one-on-one work with people, and primarily what I look for more and more are ways to play long-term games with long-term people where I'm able to, integrate with them in some, either equity or profit share
Right.
for growth. And so
Yeah.
those kind of collaborations are really uh, what I primarily focus on now.
what type of elements do you look for in a partner that's a good collaborator for you? I'm involved in several collaborations right now, and I'm
Mhm,
sorting out who to say yes to, who to say no
mhm,
to, what really is a good path for me to
mm,
go down, what's a
mhm.
distraction, right? So for you, how do you sort that?
I look for things where where the work that I'm doing with them can be, the basis for, I call it syndication or, uh, scaling through duplication. And I look at, one of the things that I focus on is when I create a before unit vending machine for somebody. That's the way we describe it, is we're looking for that level of certainty, as a vending machine versus a slot machine. Which
Oh,
a
I
lot
like
of
that.
people
Yeah.
doing digital marketing. They're putting money in, they're pulling the lever and hope that
Hoping for
something
the best, right?
happens.
Yeah.
But yet a vending machine, you put the money in, you push the button, and out comes exactly what you wanted, right? And in order
Right.
to do that, I call those things scale ready algorithms. And that's what I'm looking to create is once I figure out how to do something, like for instance, how to help realtors get more listings or get more referrals. Those algorithms are now duplicatable that you can, scale that through duplication. And that's
Mhm.
kind of like Michael Gerber's, you know, franchise prototype
Right.
model. That's really where I'm focused. And I love that those because my real joy is in cracking the code and creating the scale ready algorithm. I have
Mhm.
zero interest or aptitude for scaling. I'm not
Oh,
interested in that.
right,
That's
right, right.
disciplined execution of something that we already know. And I look at it as I think about a scale ready algorithm as like a hit song. And if you look, there's a guy, Max Martin. I don't know if you've heard about Max Martin,
I feel
but
like maybe you told me something about Max Martin when we got together for that meal during the
oh,
hurricane.
maybe in Florida. Yeah, yeah. So
Maybe.
so on the list of people who've written the most number one songs in the
Oh
history of
yeah,
the
you
Billboard
told me told
chart,
told me. Yeah, yeah.
it goes Paul McCartney, Max Martin, John Lennon. And nobody could pick Max Martin out of a lineup, right? But
Right.
that was where I realized that what Max does as a writer producer, he's in the studio and he works with Katy Perry to create her album. And then once the album is done and locked, she's going to spend the next 2 or 3 years scaling those algorithms, those songs by
More of
singing the
that. Right.
same songs every night
Right.
for the next 2 years. And meanwhile, Max Martin's in Sweden back in the studio with Justin Timberlake.
Right.
And so I get the joy out of creating the algorithms more than executing or scaling them. So that's where I'm focused more and more and more on getting to where I can just do the thing that I really want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I know that you're good friends with Dan Sullivan and have been in strategic coach for a long, long time.
Mhm,
What's your understanding of your unique ability at this stage in the game? Like, what are you
mhm.
able to verbalize that clearly?
Yeah, so that is my unique ability is able to I mean, if I look at, I've had that marketing focus for all of those times that our overriding organizational purpose is that we help entrepreneurs make more money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
marketing is certainly my unique ability of
Yeah.
being 'cause I've thought about it more than anything.
And
And,
the other
you
73.
realize it now as we get to, our age, our certain age here that you realize, man, I've been in this game a long, long time in
Right.
this, and at the highest levels. And so that goes a long way. You get a lot more opportunities and a lot more, um, that's why I look at the scalable nature of I know I'm being successful when I'm working on projects I'm excited about and doing my very best work. That's infinitely scalable. I think that is where I focus is what are the things that excite me? What am I
Right.
excited about? And what is the opportunity for me to do my very best work? Because my very best work now is, much better than it was 25 years ago. And the opportunities that we have, I mean, that was you think about internet one 25 years ago it
Right.
was email, and that's blogs, and pay-per-click was just getting started, so you could ride that wave. But now we're in the fully mature internet and social media, and everybody's online, and Facebook has 2 billion daily users.
Right.
And
Right.
it's just we're living in magical times right now.
It's true. It's true.
Mhm.
So, wow. Dean, when you think about a partner or a business that has a scale ready algorithm in place, it sounds like what you're saying is that you like to partner with existing businesses that already have like consistency oriented systems in place. So
Yes.
that they can, like, whatever you create for them, they
I
have
look
the
for during
ability.
unit capabilities. Yeah, yeah. So I've recently developed what I call the VCR formula.
Yeah.
And the VCR formula is vision plus capability multiplied by reach. And that was the formula that I recognized that explains how Kylie Jenner became a billionaire at 21 years old, and how Mr. Beast was able to open 342 Mr. Beast burger restaurants on the same day. That they're all the opportunities for collaboration now, the networked ability that we have to connect with every other capability on the planet seamlessly with zero friction, allows us to just stay in your lane and really identify how we can put things together. So I look at it that if everybody, I think the most valuable thing for people is to look at and recognize their VCR assets, meaning in the vision column, that's all the things that the things that the recipes that you have, the knowledge that you have, the specific knowledge about a particular business, ads that you've created or appeals, or anything that how things work. That's a vision, asset that you have. The capability column is where most businesses are 100% focused on what they can do, right? So if you're a manufacturer, you make these things, you've got the equipment, you've got the staff, you've got the facilities, you've got all of the capability to produce a result. But with every capability comes capacity for that, right? So if you like the group that uh, paired with Kylie Jenner to make her cosmetics, their father just happened to own one of the largest cosmetic manufacturing plants in the world in Los Angeles. It's
Hmm.
called Spats Labs.
Hmm.
And they were able to manufacture Kylie's lip kits using excess in their father's facility, right? So
Right.
that's how they started out. They didn't have to build a big facility or figure out
Right.
all the stuff. They were able to plug in to that existing capacity that they had, and then they were able to parlay that and build seed labs, which is now another of the biggest cosmetic manufacturers, and all based on recognizing what are your capabilities and capacity there. And then reach is, what access do you have to eyeballs, to hearts, to minds, or the DNA of a organization, right? Where if you look at it, if we apply the VCR formula to Kylie Jenner, she had the vision that she wanted to create these lip kits. She didn't have the capability, so
Right.
she partnered with her friends whose father had a factory that could make them. So they were able to create them. And then in the reach column, All Kylie had to do was tell her hundreds of millions of followers, hey, the lip kits are ready, and she broke the internet.
Right. Right.
I mean, so having access to reach, same thing. Mr. Beast had the vision of, well, it was actually Robert Earl, the guy from Orlando here, who started virtual dining concepts, that went to Mr. Beast and said, hey, if you were to have a restaurant, what would you want? Oh, it'd
All
be a
right.
burger restaurant. What kind
Right.
of burgers do you like? Let's
Right.
make the
Right.
menu, the recipes. And then the capability was that Robert Earl owned all these restaurants that were only at 50% capacity
Oh,
coming out of COVID. And
okay.
they had all the equipment and capability to make whatever menu items that they wanted.
Okay.
So they would plug all of their restaurants into this reach of Grubhub and Seamless and Uber Eats
Yeah.
and Mr. Beast's. Every time he puts
Broadcasting
out a
while you're
video, he's
preaching to
got
the
a
right.
Super Bowl commercial. So he
Yep.
had the vision, Robert Earl capability, and the reach of Mr. Beast just saying, hey, I started a new hamburger restaurant.
Right. Right. Boom.
Those
Cool.
kinds of collaborations are everywhere. If we just, it's like having 3D glasses, you know, when you look and overlay what your VCR assets are, you can then look for the right partners, right? Like if you
Right.
just have a great capability, but you don't have the reach,
Right. Good
who
luck.
could you partner with? Yeah, who
Right.
could you partner with that would have all the reach that you need?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it, Dean.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, so what are you working toward in the future? What are you where are you going? What are you expecting to be the next chapter? What's coming
So
next?
I mentioned that 25 years since we did the I know I'm being successful in, and I don't know. So far, that's why I just got back from Toronto. This next few weeks here is kind of like I'm gonna lock in the next 25, but I can't see any real changes to the things,
Right.
to
Right.
realizing that I still want to wake up and say, what would I like to do today? I
Yeah.
still want to have all my life paid with passive revenue. I still want to work on projects I'm excited about. And that's the thing. So I think it's like I'm ready to renew for another 25 years, the same thing,
Nice.
because it's been magical.
It's working. That's great.
It's
That's
working.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome, Dean. Well, guys, you've just heard from Dean Jackson on the Tellman and Fellman show. Go to deanjackson.com, join his
Mhm.
list, get the 8 profit activators. If you like this interview, you'll love that. And Dean, I really appreciate it. This has been an
It's been
exceptionally
fun.
insightful and wonderful episode. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Rock and roll. All right. Well, that's all for today. Guys, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. This is Tellman Knutson. There's Dean Jackson.
Hey.
We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.